Hey everybody, Andrew King here, Editor-in-Chief of Canadian Musician Magazine, joined by Mo Kenney. We are at ECMA 2018 in Halifax. Absolutely thrilled to be joined. It's been a while since
it has been a while.
We've had a chat, but yeah, the details. Newest LP dropped at the end of 2017, but still mighty fresh through our friends at Pheromone. Yeah, I feel weird jumping into an artist interview talking about another artist, but I'm curious about this one, the fact that you tapped Joel again to produce. He's been at the helm for all three full lengths. Yeah, I mean, it's obvious that you guys have a great creative partnership. I'm just curious, like at this stage of your career, what informed the decision to once again collaborate with Joel?
Yeah, actually this time I co-produced this record, so we both had a hand in the production aspect of things.
Okay.
I love working with Joel. It feels really comfortable. The studio is like right down the street from me. It's an amazing studio. I love Thomas Stager. He's the engineer there.
Yeah.
It's just like, it feels really comfortable, and I just really like working with Joel. Yeah, and I thought about maybe doing something different, but I just ended up coming back to work with Plaskett again. Love that guy.
Yeah, if it ain't broken, don't fix it, I suppose.
Exactly.
So tell me a bit about, like, this being your third time back in the co-production chair, I guess maybe having a bit more, I don't want to say confidence, but
yeah, definitely more confidence. Yeah,
shape the direction of the record. So I'm curious, like, in that environment, very comfortable working with Joel at Joel's studio, very familiar space. When the details was coming together, and I asked this too, like being a musician from the East Coast, kind of off the major market beaten path, I guess we can say, like where you'd be performing sometimes as a solo artist, sometimes with the different iterations of a band. Yeah, when you were making the record, were you keeping in mind how these songs were going to translate to the stage, or was it more the case that, you know, you're in there working on an album, let that live and breathe as its own entity, and then afterwards kind of going and figuring out how some of these songs were going to come to be in the live environment?
I was definitely focusing on how the record was going to sound when I was writing it. I was doing a lot of demoing in my apartment, and I think that's why there's so much electric guitar on the record. I only have my electric guitar. That's basically all I could do on my laptop in my apartment. Like, I don't have a drum kit or anything like that, so it was just like drum loops and a ton of electric guitar. But yeah, I was just really focused on how the record was going to sound. And then I did a few demos with my band, Mike Willett, Matt Tovett. They did a bunch of demos with me. We had a little rehearsal space in Dartmouth, and we sort of figured out a couple of the songs in that little rehearsal space before we went into the studio to record the record. But for the most part, everything really came together in the studio. Yeah.
You mentioned the increased amount of electric guitar, which is something I wanted to ask about, although I did not realize that was part of the source there. Was that kind of born, like you say, of, I guess, necessity, or the fact that a lot of it did come together in your apartment with that setup, or like was this a product of maybe some different sounds that you've been listening to in between LP 2 and 3?
Maybe a mixture of both. I finally got Logic, which is a recording program for those of you who don't know, and I was doing a lot of recording in my apartment, and a lot of the production ideas kind of happened while I was demoing them myself. And also, I just really like playing electric guitar a lot. So it just felt natural to play that. Like, usually in the past, I've had a bunch of songs that I've just written on my acoustic guitar and haven't really gone in to demo them or anything. And I just go into the studio with something really bare bones. But this time, a lot of the stuff was sort of fleshed out a bit more before we got in there.
This is exactly where I wanted to go. Yeah, LP3, the fact that you are co-producing, that was my question. I guess you just answered it, unless you want to elaborate a bit more. But and maybe even comparing it to the previous albums, sort of going into the studio, sitting down with Joel, and then watching things go from kind of where you brought them to that point to the finished album. How different was that this time around? Like, how complete was your vision for what these songs were going to sound like when Joel came into the fold and you actually had faders up?
A lot of it, I already had a pretty good idea of what the end result was going to be, and then some of them ended up being completely different than I thought that they were going to end up being, which is where Joel kind of comes into the picture. I trust his opinion, and he always has really cool ideas to bring to the table. So he kind of like, if it was at an 8, he brings it up to like an 11, you know, which is why I like working with him so much.
Yeah.
I forget what else I was going to say. I think I had another point to make there, but I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah.
We're dynamic. It's all good.
Yeah.
I've been a big fan of your lyrics since the self-titled.
Thanks.
Yeah, just very, I'd say direct, but also intriguing. Like that really unique hybrid of, you know, it's easy to pick up the emotion, I think, in a lot of cases that you're going for, and yet there's a lot of depth and substance there that it doesn't come across as just being paint by numbers.
Thank you.
But all this ask on this new one, I feel like that's taken to a new level.
Definitely.
And with that, so I'm curious, and I don't want to delve too far into your personal life, although I guess as an artist that's maybe par for the course.
Yep.
But just curious if that was a product, and maybe again it's a hybrid here, but a product of, you know, that Confidence LP3, stronger vision for how you want this to come together, or if maybe there were some happenings in your life around the time that you were composing these songs that may have informed that direction.
Yeah, there definitely was. There was a lot of stuff going on, and my writing style, I always come at it from a personal perspective.
No doubt.
And yeah, that kind of like informed the content lyrically in this record. But I wasn't really thinking about the fact that I'd have to talk about it and sort of like tell people what this stuff was about when I was writing it. I was just kind of doing what I do, and then I was like, I'll figure that out later. And then when we get into the studio and started recording the songs, I was like, oh, these are really personal, but hopefully not so personal that people can't relate to it.
Right. Oh, which I don't think has ever been an issue.
Yeah.
And actually that raises an interesting question is, as someone... Like I was going to say I hope I know, because I think we've talked about this in the past. But when you were first starting your career, I think like there was a bit of stage fright and, I don't know, it would be fair to say kind of a shy persona.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, like I'm curious about now. You've been at this for quite some time, and just your profile growing and growing with each record. How do you feel about that balance, about, you know, being true to your art and being a creator and, you know, working in the studio with other creative people, and then I guess having to come into this life of, you know, self-promotion and career steering and everything? Like, is that something that you find yourself getting more comfortable with? Is it still kind of tricky sitting here talking to a stranger about some really personal lyrical content?
I think it's gotten a lot easier for me. When I first started doing this, I found it really uncomfortable, and I think I'm better at having an actual conversation with people as opposed to having just like answers that I've, you know, like, oh, I'm going to choose this answer and use it for every single interview. Do you know what I mean? Just because I was so uncomfortable and awkward. But yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot more comfortable with that. And I think just in every aspect of being an artist, I feel a lot more confident and comfortable now.
Right on. Yeah, I mentioned at the beginning the details of the most recent album. Still plenty of life in that one. So encourage people to go check it out. But in the meantime, yeah, we're quarter of the way into 2018. What's on the horizon for you? Anything you want to let people know about? Whether it's like tour dates, video stuff, or maybe just letting us know kind of what the outlook is for the next year or so.
Yeah, I've got all my upcoming summer dates are up on my website, which is just mokenney.com. And yeah, I'm writing a ton. I think that's going to be my main focus this summer.
Right on.
Work on some new stuff. Yeah.
Brilliant. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem.
Mo Kenney, ECMA 2018. Big thanks to Trevor Murphy, Pigeon Row, Publicity, and we'll be back Barrett McNeil's about 2 p.m. today. If you have any questions, anything you want us to check out on the ground at ECMA 2018, please do. But thanks a ton, eh?
Thank you.
Yeah.